ThornTree specialises in sourcing and placing talent throughout Sub-Saharan Africa and has been doing so for over 10 years. In lieu of this, we chat to some of the team members working on the continent to hear their take on recruitment in the rest of Africa and how things have shifted with time. There are nuances to understand when recruiting individuals throughout the continent. Examples could include significant issues such as political climates that one would find themselves in as per region or country. And also there would be cultural differences that will definitely go on to play a significant role in negotiations. There's also labor-related matters that one needs to keep in mind from region to region and country to country. And in the event that one does not have the expertise in-house to rely on to tackle these, I would advise looking out for a reputable HR partner that knows the legal requirements in each of these countries, just to make sure that the process is far smoother.
For sourcing talent in Africa, somebody should be mindful of how Africa operates and where is Africa coming from. In a former time, the Africans were living as a community whereby what belongs to me belongs to you. They had very strong sociological bond, and that has been now coming also up to today in such a way that Africans are being more of relationship-based people than transactional people where you hit one and go no. So you should identify yourself with somebody in order for you to do business with him, in order for you to source for him or to source him as a candidate. That's one element. And the other thing is that even though Africa is composed with the countries, you get also within the country, in a specific country, you get different languages and different tribes, and you will see that the different tribes are believing in different things, and that leads also to some kind of conflict, and because what I believe in is not what you believe in, and so, but when it comes to work, people can work together, but there are some very sensitive issues linked to each one's tribe or linguistic background, and that should be handled with care.
I think one of the biggest challenges that we face throughout Africa is a skills shortage. It's being addressed at the moment, but Africa is the most youthful population globally on any continent, with somewhere about 35% of the people between the ages of 15 and 35 years old. Although it's a major challenge, it is a huge opportunity through further education throughout countries in Africa. The second point that I think we face are visa regulations, population regulations, and the movement of people throughout Africa. Various regions within Africa and countries have so many different regulations with regard to it, some of them welcoming, some of them not, but it's always a challenge, and you need to understand that when recruiting in Africa, where those visa regulations and how those things have come into play. I think it's not so much just visa restrictions, but also freedom of movement. I think through skills transfer throughout Africa and bringing skills from other parts of Africa and sharing those skills, it's become a little more challenging due to various countries basing local first. South Africa B policies, Angola local first, Botswana local first, they all have their different challenges, and of course they're correcting the imbalances of the past. And that's correct in its way, and is right, and moving forward from there is fantastic, is what we need to do. However, those challenges with regard to high skill levels and special skills that require visas. Botswana is slightly different. Population levels are very small, so therefore high levels of skill are difficult to find. But up in the ECOWAS countries, up in West Africa, they've come to a trade agreement where sharing of skills and sharing of people with regard to economies and manufacturing requirements and company skill has become promoted throughout West Africa. East Africa, a little better now. They've opened their borders and opened their doors to a lot more expats, a realisation that they need to do more people into the country with that skill, and particularly Tanzania, who is lifting their level of education, putting a lot of money into their education and really driving that to focus on local first.
Yes, if one can take example for a specific country, one can look at Ghana. Ghana is a lot more stable and can be a set point of starting up operations to enter various other countries in Africa. It is a lot smaller than other countries, and that means the talent pool is a lot smaller, and the talent pool can be a lot more expensive if you can compare it to countries like Nigeria.
Well, another thing that's very significant, I find, is with CVs and how they're presented on the continent, and these will differ depending on each region. Typically, I could use Nigeria as an example. You'd find that they're very brief, to the point in their CV writing, which is not a bad thing. But what happens in that situation is that a lot of information will be omitted at times. And so to counter that, I certainly would suggest that one actually picks up the phone and has a formal, detailed conversation with the person to understand exactly what it is that they do. And then also with the other English-speaking countries, the opposite of that. Use Kenya as an example. You'd find that candidates in Kenya, the way that they represent themselves or present themselves on CVs would be a far more long-winded, fully detailed CV, but a lot of the time you would need also to get on the phone with them, have that conversation with them, making sure that the information is correct and that everything that is on the CV is what they can do and know.